Alright, so now we're going to take a look at this scene file to control how fast something moves and its speeds going in and out of keyframes. Okay, so looking at this animation here, if it wants to play, there it goes. We can definitely see that it goes pretty quick right at the beginning, and then it goes slower gradually as it moves along. So let's go to the middle here. I'm going to grab this. And one thing I should notice is that this one's obviously already set up. It already works. The keyframes here at the beginning are closer together. That means that they're going to move faster. And then these ones are a little bit further apart. These ones are a little bit further apart. And these ones a little bit further apart. And these ones are really far apart. Okay, to really emphasize that speed drop from one to the other to the other. Okay, so I'm going to grab all of these. I'm going to right click. And I'm going to, wherever that, delete. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that from the beginning. So I'm going to animate this again. So this is only animating using the X and the Z. So I'm going to grab both of these and set a key on them. Then I'm going to go up, let's say to 20. I'm going to scoot down to where I want this to go. I'm always setting the extents of the animation. So that's the extent. I'll set another key. Sure. I'll go up to, let's say, 40. And then I'll put, where is this one going to go? So I could have gone here and then there and then here and there, but the animation flowed really well when it went to that other one. So I'll set a key on that one. I'm going to go up to 60. I'm going to move it down and over. And you see I zoom in and I want to make sure this is lined up right with that. Set a key. I'm going to go up to 80, set a key, go up to 100, and then, oops, bring this straight down, and then set a key on that. Okay, so right now we have just the default setup for any kind of keyframes. And you can see it definitely doesn't feel like an animation that is pleasant to look at. It's very wobbly and boring. So the first thing I need to do is control the speed of it. Now, I want to get this as flat as possible so I can adjust the speed one at a time. What I'm getting is a lot of easing in and easing out of each one of these keyframes, and it's kind of hard to tell what the actual speed is. So I'm going to jump to my graph editor first. I can see all those keyframes and what they're doing, so I'm going to grab all of them. And I'm going to hit this button here, which is linear. Now everything's linear. Now if I rewind this and hit play, very easily I can see how fast this thing is moving because it's always at a constant speed. Okay, so this is where I have to decide what kind of animation this is. How fast it comes out of this one will dictate the next one, will dictate the next one, will dictate the next one, and so on. Okay, so if I go here to the dope sheet, and let's say that these first one, this is about 20 frames. Let's say the first one is about 10 frames. Okay, so I'm looking at the bottom here, it says 9. This one is at 9, that's fine, 9 frames is good. So that means that if this one takes 9 frames to get to that first one, then the next one is not going to take 9 frames. The next one is going to take more frames. So it might take, let's say, let's see, this is at 9, so then the next one will be, at least 18. So that's 21, that's good. And then the next one will be at least, 13 more than that, so let's say 36. Okay, and really you can just look at the spacing. If I look at the spacing between these two, the spacing between these, and the spacing between those, it should gradually get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, and I'm really going to stretch this one out, far like I had in the other one. Okay, so now I have a gradually picking up speed, and then right at the end we're taking a really long time. So now we'll hit play. Okay, so now I can look at this and see, where do I need to adjust it? Right here, going from this one to that one, it's really slow. It's like actually probably too slow. So let's go back to our dope sheet. Let's grab these two, squish them together, which means I probably should be squishing these together, which probably means I should be squishing that together too. Okay, so let's see how that looks. All right, so that feels a little bit better. There we go. So now the last thing I want to do is between each one of these is a constant speed. It's always moving at that constant speed. I'm fine with it in the middle because it works really well for how it's going from one spot to the other. But when we get to the end here, I'd really like this to start off at one speed and gradually slow down. It shouldn't be going the same speed throughout the entire time of that. So I'm going to go to my graph editor now, and I'm going to grab the last keyframes, and I'm just going to hit this flat button. And what that does is it just flattens out the key so that it no longer just goes at a constant speed. It like drops off. Close that. It's a subtle effect. Okay, not a huge difference. Let's really enhance it. So what I need to do is I need to be able to grab this handlebar. And every time I grab these and I want to manually move them, I have to marquee the handle, or the point, marquee the handle, and then use my move tool with the middle mouse and I can drag it. So I never want to go past the point of the keyframe. Okay, so this comes down like this. I never want to do this and have it go past the keyframe and then come back up to it. I could do this as long as this doesn't go past this point. But I would never, dip below it to come back up. But what I want to do is pull this handle out. I really want to stretch out this animation here so it really goes slow. So I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to say weighted tangents. Okay, you'll see the icon change. And I'm going to go to tangents, free tangent weight. Now what that means is now I can take this handlebar and stretch it out. Okay, I want this to flow nice, so I'm going to have to adjust this handlebar as well. If I grab this and start moving it though, you'll see how it's moving both handlebars on both sides of this, and I don't want that. I just want to move the right side. So I'm going to go up here to break, and this will break the tangents. So now I can grab this one and move it independent of the other one. So now what I'm doing is just kind of lining up how that should flow from one point to the next. So I think this should be a nice little gradual sloping into that last bit. So let's see. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. So now you feel like it has a little bit of speed on it and then comes back in. Now there is a little bit of too much speed, I think. So as it comes from this one into that last one, it actually seems like it picks up speed right here. Okay. If this is going to go slow at the end, it's going to go fast at the beginning. So I may need to jump back to my dope sheet, grab that keyframe, and stretch it out more. And then preview again. There we go. Okay, so I think that's a good way to animate that. Now let's go through the dope sheet and take a look at some of the other, the graph editor, and look at some of the other stuff that is inside it. So just like I said before, you can grab your keyframes, you can use the move tool, and you can move them around. Vertically is the value, so up and down is value. Left and right is your timing. All the graph points will have handlebars on them, so you can grab the handlebars and move them. All of these up here are different tangents that are available. So I grab this and then I click on, let's say, auto. You'll see how this goes to like this automatic movement where it's trying to like ease in and ease out of each one of these. And then there's spline, which is next to it, and spline is going to do try to keep it nice and smooth, but sometimes, like on this one, it's actually like going below it. I can tell that because this handlebar is at an angle. If it was not going to do that, this will be perfectly flat, but it's at a slight angle that does that. So spline, you have to be careful because sometimes you get this thing called overshoot, where it overshoots your keyframes. And then we have clamped. Okay, and clamped is, in this case, is not really doing anything crazy different. But what clamped is really good for, let me move this out of the way, is let's say for whatever reason I wanted this one to hit this and stay there. Okay, so I'm going to go up to, let's say, 23. I'm using my middle mouse. If you use your left mouse, it updates the time. But if you use your middle mouse, it doesn't update the time. So I'm basically going to go up to 23, same values, and set a key. So now if we look at this, you can see that these two values are completely flat. Okay. Oops. If I use spline on this, you'll see how it rounds up and then comes back down. If I use clamped, it's basically doing like spline does, except when it sees, okay, this is the same value as that, it flattens that area out. Linear is what we had before, where it's just a direct shot, constant speed from one point to the next. Flat is just smoothing out and not going past any of the points. This is stepped, means it's just going to jump from point A to point B to point C. And then this one is plateau, which in this case we're not going to see a huge difference between that and flat. Okay, usually these are starting points. Typically I'll make something either linear, or I'll make something flat, or I'll make something stepped. And occasionally maybe I'll make something spline. But it's important to know what we're looking for here. Anywhere we see a sharp corner, we're seeing a sudden change of speed, change of direction, all of that. Anytime we see something like this, where this is flattened out like this, we're going to gradually pick up speed and go really fast. And then same thing at the end, as it's slower here, it's going to slow down as it gets into that keyframe and then comes back out of it. Okay, and then in some cases we have to do this where we really enhance what this is doing. Now you can grab individual keyframes and make them linear. Okay, I can grab individual keyframes and make them spline also. If I grab that and make it spline, so you'll see this side is spline and that side is not. Or just the one handlebar, maybe that's spline. Okay, you can do stuff like that. You can break the tangents. You typically don't want to break something that you want to flow nicely. Here it doesn't matter. These are just two separate things. But if this one was nice and smooth and this one was nice and smooth, the second it's broken and I start going a different direction with it, you'll see how the smoothness is no longer there. You'll definitely see like a jittery type movement in there. And that's really all there is to this area. There's more stuff that we can get into, but for setting keys, just being able to understand these basic things of how to move stuff around, that's what's key inside of this area. Okay.